I have a pretty fascinating moment here from The View where Joy Behar, one of the hosts, says that she doesn't believe Republicans are going to be able to win national elections ever again, or in the very extended near future, I guess I would phrase it. And I actually want to talk about this genre of a conversation. And we've had a little bit of it in the past. We talked about it in a Carrie Lake segment yesterday, how the radical nature of the modern Republican Party, the fact that the Republican Party has allowed its core to become MAGA, election deniers, hardcore anti-abortion, and many other issues, is actually going to destroy the Republican Party electorally. Now, we'll talk about the specific things that are said here as the clip progresses, but take a look at this. And I don't agree with the general claim they're never going to win a national election, obviously, but the general sentiment is something I find fascinating.
And in that clip, it said, oh, they're getting the voters out. It's not about recruiting voters. This is what young people live every day. We're growing up in a time where when I was in school, we did fire drills and tornado drills. Now they do shooter drills, active shooter drills. This is a time where they're watching climate all around them. It's become a
and this isn't Joy Behar. It'll get to her in a second.
pivotal part of what they're taught in schools, like what my kids will repeat to me at 5. I'm like, I wish I had that kind of education when I was in school. LGBTQ+, they're friends. You don't have to teach them how to not be non-binary and say he, she, because sometimes they meet people for the first time addressing themselves differently, or just even simply just not falling into gender norms. Now you see, artists and boys and girls, all nails painted expression, this is their normal. Yeah. You don't have to fight anymore to say, like, there was progress made, and they can also see that there is stuff going backwards. These are their friends. These are who they sit next to. Nobody needs to break that down on a philosophical level. It's who they.
So what's being laid out here is the younger generations, and you'll see it'll pop up on screen, noting how much of the younger, how much of Gen Z voted in the last election for Democrats. And it's 77%, at least the stat they put up on screen, for congressional races for Democrats. And because younger people are just being immersed in a lot of these realities and have a worldview that is just more aligned, at least generally on average, when you interact with someone of a younger generation, with the progressive ideology, you don't have to, as she's talking about, convince them to hold these stances. That's their life. That's what they live day to day. And so because of that, the Republican Party's backwards thinking in regard to a lot of these issues is going to increasingly, as the younger generation becomes more prominent within the political voting process and the political world, it's going to really hurt the Republican Party.
They are, and they're watching this, so.
They've said it all, but this is the beginning of the end of the Republican Party, as I see it. I don't see that they're going to win in any elections anymore in this country, not national elections. Yeah. They're on the wrong side. These kids were born.
So let's be clear. There is a massive threat of them being able to win a national election. That cannot be cannot be misunderstood. And that will be to our detriment to go, oh, we can just win now. Ha, yay. No. We saw how close Trump was able to get in 2020 with all that was going on then. It can happen again. But the trend we're seeing, yes, is this ideology is not something that the general national electorate is going to be on board with, at least consistently as time goes on.
1997, not 1897, which is where the Republican Party is going. And they're like, hey, whoa, hold up. I don't want to get killed in school. I don't want to, be in the middle of another tornado or whatever the hell's going on in this country. All I hear about are tornadoes all the time. Is that climate change?
It is.
Probably.
It is part of climate change.
And they don't want all these. They don't want it. They don't want. And they want their abortion rights just in case.
Yeah,
they want it.
I think young women want.
And they're going to. The only way the Republican Party fights against this is to raise the voting age, stop people from voting. All they do is tricks.
Well, that's what scares me more than anything, because it's clear that the Republican.
Okay, we'll stop that there. But I must repeat again, we cannot take this to mean we're good to go. Not even close. And the damage that a movement can do if they are able to get into power and are aware of their lack of general popularity is significant. That matters. But when looking kind of zoomed out, and what we saw, this trend starting to develop, yes, with Trump's loss, but also the midterm results, and then when abortion has been on the ballot, we just saw the Supreme Court election results, and the radical ideology, both in regard to our democracy and abortion rights and guns and so many of these different things, as already, but especially as we become more progressive as a country based on younger voters getting more active in politics, it's just not going to be something that can win national elections if we can make sure our democracy lives through when that starts to become the reality. So how will the Republican Party respond to that? That's the big question. How will they decide to move forward? Because right now we see time and time again a cycle of, at least in recent elections, the Republican Party chooses a really radical candidate who so often does worse than likely the more moderate candidate would have done. Now, this is a primary phenomenon. The primaries, a primary phenomenon for sure, but much more extreme when it comes to the Republican Party. Often more radical candidates that have a motivated base can do well in a primary, but not in a general. That makes sense. But this is something different. And they're going to continue to do it because enough of their base is the hardcore MAGA, is on board with, the Trumpism, election denying, super hard line on a lot of these issues, ideology. And they're not going to give up on it, even though they are watching time and time again it not work in a lot of these races that we've observed and these direct ballot initiatives on abortion. And part of the reason why that is if you think it's all being rigged, as this same movement does, then why would you think you need to change your ideology? It's not about changing the ideology. It's about trying to figure out how to stop it from being rigged, right? But it's not being rigged. They're just losing, in part because they believe everything's being rigged and people see that as radical. It's a wild moment, but that's the one that we're in.